Now, with this inflation, with food and energy prices spiking, we got a serious problem on our hands. I saw just today, I think it was the largest grain warehouse in the Ukraine just got hit. Now Russia and Ukraine are already responsible for like 30% of the global wheat supply, and the largest storehouse just got hit, and that got taken out. So that means even less supply. It's not good. And so we're going into a year where the UN is expecting lots of people to die of hunger, which is just complete catastrophe. In a world where we have so much technology and so much wealth and affluence, it's crazy to think that can still happen. But we have this from the AP News. World Bank says they have a dim outlook for the global economy, which, yeah, of course, anyone could have told you that. It says the World Bank has sharply downgraded its outlook for the global economy. The prospect of widespread food shortages and concerns about the potential return of stagflation, a toxic mix of high inflation and sluggish growth unseen for more than 4 decades. So the World Bank sees this. I've been talking about it. Everyone's been talking about it. If you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been watching, but you need to be paying attention to this. Stagflation, the return of stagflation, something we haven't seen in 4 decades since the 70s. Again, it's a toxic mix of high inflation and no growth, sluggish growth. So far, Q1, quarter one of 2022, we posted negative growth, not just sluggish growth. Sluggish growth would be 1 or 2%. No, we saw negative 1.5%. That's not good. And at a time we're seeing record high inflation. So not only is it's not sluggish growth, it's negative growth. So that's extreme. And not only just high inflation, it's the highest it's been in 40 years. It's extreme. So we have extremes of both ends, which is not good, which of course, the prospect of widespread food shortages. That's what it leads to. Now, like I said, in today's day and age, this is just ridiculous that anybody should have this problem. We know how to create electricity. We know how to get oil. We know how to grow food. But for some reason, the world leaders can't stop meddling. And it says here, for many countries, recession will be hard to avoid, which is pretty difficult. For the United States alone, it says the World Bank has slashed its growth forecast from 2.5% this year. Slashed it to 2.5% from 5.7% last year in 2021. So sluggish growth would be going from 5.7 to the 2.5 they project. But we didn't have 2.5. We had negative 1.4. So quite the opposite. So good job on your forecast. You're way off. It says that for the 19 European countries that share the euro currency, it downgraded the growth outlook to 2.5% as well this year from 5.4% last year. So U.S. was 5.7, the European Union was 5.4, and so they're downgrading both of them to 2.5. In China, the world's second biggest economy after the United States, the World Bank expects growth to slow to 4.3 from 8.1 last year. The governments can't cause things to grow. The World Bank can't get things to grow. The central banks can't get things to grow. Central planners can't get the economies to grow. The economies to grow when things become more efficient, when more goods and services are created. I was reading an article yesterday, and it was talking about they were hoping that it would encourage more innovation. I was listening to some other economists talking, and they were talking about how if you had something like Bitcoin that doesn't have inflation, so the monetary supply is not increasing, how then it would cause the purchasing power of that money supply, like Bitcoin, to increase. So right now, if I hold dollars, they're losing value. And so I don't want to hold on to dollars very long. I want to spend it as fast as possible because they're losing value. They're going to buy me less tomorrow than they do today. So that makes me want to spend them. If we have something like Bitcoin that goes up in value, it buys me more in the future, then I don't want to spend them. And they said, but isn't that a problem? Don't the leaders, don't the central planners need to encourage people to spend? I thought that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. People always want to spend. People always want to spend. People want to spend more than they make. People want to spend more than they make. They want to live on credit cards, right? We don't need to encourage anyone to spend. Why? Well, you need food You need clothes, you need a car, you need a house, you want some entertainment, and those shiny, flashy things, the new purses, the new electronics, the new phones, the new watches, you want to buy those things. We want new things. We like to play with things. You don't need any encouragement. And entrepreneurs also don't need any encouragement to run a business to make profit. That's the whole point. And how do we get profits? By being very efficient, by consuming less resources than we can produce, by working to gain efficiencies so I can make more profit. We don't need to encourage. What we need to do is take the boot off of their neck. And so back to this outlook for growth for the global economy, what we are seeing is more and more drag being put on the economy by debt and by regulations. So, for example, the energy industry has not been growing. Well, for the last decade, and really the last 4 or 5 years, the leaders, the powers that be, the Davos group, the EU group, even in the United States, even Biden coming into the White House, was talking about putting energy providers out of business, making them go bankrupt. So when you put regulations in place and you tell them that your goal is to make them go bankrupt, then what happens? They don't invest into their business. They don't grow their business.